What's going on, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It's time for Nick at Night, my weekly comic book review show. If you like any of these books, you want to help support the channel, links will be down below in the description so you can check those out and follow along with the conversation. Now, to kick things off, we're going to go over to DC first with DC KO issue number 3. Scott Snyder on this one. We also have Javier Fernandez on the art. So it's continuing the big boss battles, right? We're going to get all the different characters that are still left in this DC KO event. We're going to team them up in here against some unusual picks, right? The rules of this game are whoever's left gets to pick somebody from myth and legend or whatever, right? Some of their peers, perhaps. They get to team up with them and do like a 2-on-2 type of a battle. It's another one where they're fighting each other in a team situation, and there are some cool surprises, some interesting picks that the different characters make. Now, we have a mix of villains and heroes in the remaining teams right now, so it is there are some curveballs that are thrown as to who they're actually picking, who they're going to be teaming up with to go into the next round, and it has some interesting implications to it. I think there was some creativity used on some of the characters that were brought forth, right? Brought back from the grave or whatever. But ultimately, I think that, you know, it's really all flash. There's not a whole ton of substance there. There are moments that are heavy, but I feel like I just wanted a little bit more with that. But I'm trying to set all that aside and just kind of have stupid, dumb fun with the series in general. That's what you really get inside the DC KO event. Nothing makes sense. It's going to be a weird thing to go through all this and see what the conclusion is and what the DC landscape looks like. This is another one of those absurd books where they just throw something a little bit unique, a little bit different into here to spice up these battles. That's what we get inside this issue. Now, at the end of each one of these issues, we see who is remaining, right? Who survived that round. It's not a totally original cast. In fact, probably from the very beginning, you could have picked these 4 people to remain. It's going to be cool to see who they're going to be up against next. There's a hint of that over here, but I have my questions about, is it really them or not? I don't think so, because they're a little bit like acting out of character. Maybe they're like an avatar for that person. I don't want to spoil it for you. I want you to read it yourself. Again, big dumb fun, DC KO number 3. Let me know if you read it. All right, next up is Aquaman issue number 13. Of course, we have Jeremy Adams on this one, but we have Daniel Bayliss on this, taking over for John Timms on this issue. Now, what's important for me and probably for you is maintaining that aesthetic. You know what I mean? If we're doing a different kind of story arc, introducing new characters, maybe it's a dream state, changing the art drastically really works. You know, you can kind of separate that in your mind. In this instance here, they do a decent job of carrying over the aesthetic. So props to them for trying to maintain that look and feel. It wasn't too jarring at all. And so, yeah, good job on the art side. Story-wise, unfortunately, I don't really care about what's going on inside the story. It actually opens up with basically saying, if you want to read an Aquaman book right now, just go read DC KO number 3, because that's what Aquaman is doing right now. So it really kind of throws you off. What it does do is it focuses on some of the ancillary characters. So we have Mira or whoever, and we have his daughter, and we have all these different female-led characters just trying to reorient themselves with the landscape that they're in. There's some backstabbing, there's some double crossing, there's some like evil intentions just baked into the whole situation. It was actually really hard to follow, to be honest. I'm reading this book. I understood there was this thread in the background that I just didn't really care about, and it's on full display inside this issue. I need to go back and reread it potentially. We're going to see where it goes and see how impactful it really was after DC KO and after, you know, Aquaman handles all of his business over there. When he comes back, what does it actually mean? I don't really know, but we're going to be continuing reading this story anyways. Maybe this is a lull in the series, and I want to know what you guys thought. What is going on in the story? Who is who? What are the intentions? Let me know down below. All right, let's go over to Marvel next. We have Null issue number 1, shared writing duties on this one with Al Ewing and Tom Waltz. Now we have Ramirez on the art, and we have Eric on the coloring. I really like the aesthetic of the book. I like the interior artwork. It's got a real sharp quality to it. It's got some great coloring on here too, specifically in some, I don't know, the moody scenes. And so they did a great job on the aesthetics of the book, on the coloring and the line work and everything. Story-wise, it does do a decent job of catching you up to who Null is. If you have not read The King in Black, if you haven't read the mini spin-offs and all the other ancillary stories, this gives you like a 2-page cliff notes of what's going on and how much of a piece of crap Eddie Brock is, and his son, Dylan, whatever the heck he's doing, and who Null is in the overall cosmic landscape in Marvel. Catches you up pretty quickly within like 2 pages. But with that said, Null is in jail right now. This is an escape issue. He's in hell. Hela is guarding him. She's absorbing all of his power. She's trying to utilize that void power and trying to siphon it from him. Some revelations and some self-actualization or something like that occurs in here, which helps him escape, which is kind of weird because he's as old as time itself, essentially. And I can't believe he didn't think of this before. But in any case, it is a cool jailbreak kind of an issue. And there is lots of carnage and gore along the way, which makes you kind of laugh out loud, to be honest. Like after the 4th, 5th, or 6th kill in this fashion, just like busting heads open, things like that, I'm like, this is actually a pretty funny book. And it's not that bad to look at either. So pleasantly surprised. I don't know if it has legs. I really don't like the Null character. Now, with that said, King in Black, I love that issue. I love that run just in general. Kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. Go back and read King in Black if you don't know anything about Null, and maybe you can jump into something like this and see if you enjoy it. They're also teasing some other big villain names in the Marvel Universe inside the story, like Hela's got this Grandmaster plan, and she's going to be bringing some reinforcements in. So that's what's got me excited. Not necessarily the Null piece, but like how Null fits into this with Hela and this other mystery guest showing up in the last page. That's going to be kind of fun to see how that all plays out, admittedly. So let me know what you thought about this issue here, especially if you have the context of all the other Null runs like King in Black and everything else. If this is new to you, also sound off down below. I want to know what your thoughts are on this first issue. All right, let's continue with Marvel with the Ultimates issue number 20. We have Dennis Camp on this, of course, and we have Phil Noto coming back for the art duty. In the previous issue, issue number 19, we got to see the ultimate version of Vision. Now we get to see what Vision is doing inside of this issue when Vision fully comes online. We even get an origin story for who the Vision used to be, a very classic, long-standing Marvel character. Pretty exciting there that they were able to integrate that in a meaningful way. And I really like the coming online moments. The first half of this book or third of this book is really how the Vision is reconnecting the Ultimate Network, how they're re-engaging with all the reinforcements on the front lines and what that actually means for them as far as their battles go. And we get to see the villains on the back pedal a little bit here. So it's fun to see the Ultimate Network and regime and everything else kind of like on their uprise right now and how the Vision plays a role in all that. There is a lot of timey-wimey stuff. We go back in time, we set up some circumstances that will make us successful in the future. And this is that moment, right, where the uprising is at its peak and we have all these additional resources and we planned ahead for these battles. And how do we utilize that? We turn an entire city into a mech. That's all I'm going to say. It's absurd. It made me laugh out loud. The second half of this book is really, really insane. So I recommend checking it out just to get a broader idea of what's going on in the Ultimate Universe and everything. So we're going to be seeing how this all equates to the Maker coming out and what happened in the previous issues of year 2 or whatever it was. So it's all compiling. It's all coming to a head very, very soon. And it is exciting yet absurd at the same time. All right, let's go over to Mad Cave next. We have a Killed Everyone But Me issue number 5, a satisfying ending to this first volume, and I'm really surprised and happy we got that. Now, there's nothing super original going on with the overall story, but I think the execution of it was handled really well. It's like Something's Killing Children if Erica Slaughter teamed up with one of the monsters and went on revenge missions against other monsters. Really cool idea. I like that it went in that direction instead of just this protagonist taking on the antagonist and like winning the day and trying to like, I don't know, redeem her past traumas and going on with her life. She's actually teaming up with the devil to take out other devils. And so I love that approach. I like that synergy. There's always that tension that's going to be there. There's that history and everything, but she's utilizing that to her benefit and trying to stop this trauma happening elsewhere around the world. Love the idea of it. Now, there are hints to a second volume, and I'm excited to see that. I hope the sales were good enough and the word was spread enough around so people were checking this book out. I was pleasantly surprised by volume number 1. It's actually going to be up for FOC very soon, if not now. So you can pick that one up. You can try it out. And volume 2 comes out, you could try that one as well. Continuing with Mad Cave, we have our Soot Stained Heart issue number 2. Now, this is probably one of the most confusing, intriguing. It's just got me wanting to read more, but I don't understand why I like it just yet. There are some obvious things. The artwork is ever evolving. It feels like we took an assignment to maybe change our entire art style and coloring style every 6 pages or so through issue number 2. There are moments of like aesthetic connection from issue number 1. That was breathtaking as well, from scene to scene, and how the artist decided to take on certain aspects of the story. The characters themselves are fun and engaging. There's this familiarity there with like a Santa Claus kind of a character. We see that a lot inside of issue number 2. So, you know, this book has a great feel, look, design. It has good lore to it and everything. The execution's pretty cool as well. Like the dialogue is interesting and everything, but I find myself still a little bit confused on what is going on. Like, what is this quota? Why is coal so important aside from, you know, like running the city? But there's a twist in there that I just can't put my finger on even after some rereads. So design-wise and aesthetics and just the experience itself is still worth it. So if you haven't checked this out, I highly recommend doing so. I hope that future issues kind of clarify some of the questions that I have. I think it's gonna make a cool collected read, to be honest, too, to be knocking these out back to back. I'm intrigued in this book and I'm confused at the same time. It's really a weird experience for me. So it's Stained Heart number 2. Let me know if you read it. All right, let's go over to IDW next with Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, issue number 5. We have one more issue in The Rite of Spring. So really excited to see how the story concludes. We definitely had our Scorched Earth issue right here. Man, Patrick Horvath threw it all on the table. Everything is out in the open and we're having to deal with the repercussions of that, and successfully so far. What's really cool about the Sam character is we learn something about her, something she's done or something she's about to do or does in that issue that is still shocking even to this day. Despite everything we know about the character and what we've seen so far, she outdoes herself in every few issues or so, and this is definitely one of those. So like I said, Sam has gone complete Scorched Earth at this moment. There's going to be one more conclusion issue. I wonder if there's going to be some one-offs to like tie things up or whatever. Is there going to be a volume number 3? That's the question. I think Sam's actually going to go over to DC for a little while and fight the Joker, apparently, which is going to be an interesting thing over at Boss Battle, I think, number 1. I got that cover from Patrick Horvath because why wouldn't you want to get a cover with Sam versus the Joker? Insane. But if you haven't read Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, volume number 1, definitely pick that one up. I'll have a link down below. Jump into volume number 2. One of the best reads in comics that I've done in a long time. You will not regret it. Let me know if you're reading it. All right, keeping up with IDW, we have Tmnt issue number 14 from Yang and Williams. So I was a little bit hesitant going into the creative art change in here. With that said, we're a couple of issues in, and there are some redeeming factors in here. The artwork, for one, is still really engaging. I like the composition. There's these great, like, full character views next to the paneling, so the composition is cool and dramatic. There are some coloring choices in here that I don't necessarily vibe with, or some, aesthetic choices, but an overall package from the visual point of view is pretty solid. Is it Juan Ferreira? No, it's not, but it's still really engaging and it has that same kind of vibe to it. Writing-wise, this is what I wanted to begin with. I wanted the Turtles all together fighting on some common threat, something like that. We do have maybe some conclusions to the whole Splinter thing inside of here. We had a weird take on it in the previous issue. There is this spirit or this ghostly element that's hunting down all the Turtles' villains, classic villains even. And so they're having to align themselves with their villains to save them, all this weird stuff. I don't know, it's like super righteous activities, and I don't necessarily agree with that, but whatever, we're going to get this in this book. It's going to take a few more issues in this arc here to see how the whole Splinter thing pays off. There's hints as to what's going on in this issue especially, and in the previous issue as well, about what's happening right there, but we haven't been fully introduced to like the whole concept, like what is actually going on right there. And so I think it's going to take a few more issues to solidify my thoughts on this overall. But as of right now, I'm just kind of taking it at face value and going forward, having a good time seeing the brothers take on a threat collectively and having a decent time with the artwork as well right now. But let me know what you guys are thinking about TMNT right now, especially after the creative art change and how the story's been progressing so far. Let me know down below. All right, let's go over to Dynamite next with Space Ghost issue number 7. Of course, we have David Pepose and Jonathan Lau on this one. So we have a newer hero/villain showing up inside of the issue. We were introduced to Dr. Contra, the kid's grandfather, in previous issues. He's doing some experiments, especially in like sustainable energy from like a galactic point of view. He's testing out some new stuff, and there are some problems that come out of that. A new villain is born in the process. So we get to unpack who exactly this villain is, what their capacities are, their power sets, how they work, and how they're going to be playing with the overall villain landscape and, everything else in the universe. I don't know if I have to keep emphasizing the fact that Jonathan Lau and Andrew Dalehouse are doing a great job on the aesthetic side of this. Like the coloring and the artwork and the line work is so good inside the series, and it's been since issue number 1, volume number 1. You definitely got to check this out. Like the perspectives, the coloring, the excitement, the rage moments, the quiet moments, the conversation pieces. There's not a single boring page ever inside of Space Ghost, whether it's, something action-packed or more mundane and conversational. It always looks so good. And, David Pepose is doing a great job of continuing to keep our engagement, keep up the pace, give us something new constantly that impacts everything. And the kids get to evolve with Space Ghost, not only as like a father, child unit, but as a team unit as well. Like they upgrade their skills and their abilities and their teamwork, roles, and responsibilities. It's really fun to see all this stuff play out and mature over time. And it's an ever-growing cast of characters too. And they're all engaging at the same time. Every villain is meaningful. They have a reason to exist. They have a backstory. They have some kind of a lasting effect on our heroes. It's been such a great time reading Space Ghost, and this issue is one of the best as well. All right, let's close it out in Image. We have Geiger issue number 20. Of course, we have Jeff Johns. Of course, we have Gary Frank on this one and Brad Anderson as well. So we were coming out of a lot of exciting things in the previous arc. We had a lot with the nuclear woman going on and creating the, what was it, the St. Louis Rascals or something like that. Geiger was in prison recently. His powers were suppressed. They're coming back right now. He's on the run. He's really kind of reoriented as far as his goals and his meaning in life. He was trying to rid himself of this disease that he has, with like all this nuclear power, but I think he's owning it at this point. I think he's going to be on a little bit of a different mission in here. This issue, though, was the Northerner's arrival in the timeline. He just came out of the 1800s or wherever he was with Simon Pure. He just kind of beams in, right? And so we get to see those two characters interact. Now, it's really fun to see the Northerner a little bit more experience with time travel. Like, he understands the gig, he understands his mission, but everybody else around him either don't believe him, because why would you believe him? Or they're like highly critical of him, or whatever it might be. It's fun watching those two mindsets interact. Now, you remember in the Matrix, they go into that white zone and they say like guns, lots of guns, and things start pouring in. We get a couple of those moments inside of here too. The Northerner's got some cool technology where he can summon some stuff, things that shouldn't exist in the timelines, which I thought was funny with the Simon Pure crossover. We get some pretty great resources inside of here too, as they continue their mission across America right now. The Northerner's on a mission, right? And Geiger is on board just to see if like this whole thing is true or not. So we're going to get at least an issue, maybe two, of the Northerner teaming up with Geiger. I can't wait for Simon to show back up. I can't wait for Junkyard Joe to be back online fully and be integrated with the team again. It's going to be cool for like all four of those guys to get together with Barney. That's going to be so fun. I can't wait to see more of that. All right, next up is G.I. Joe issue number 14. We have the Dreadnought War Part 5 in here, Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley, and we have Jordi Belair on the colors. The whole Dreadnought War has been really exciting, I think. I love seeing the Dreadnoughts with Cobra, with Duke, just going at it in the desert with like no resources, and yet Cobra is so formidable. And we saw that inside of his Cobra Commander run, which I highly recommend checking out. And I love seeing Cobra and Duke teaming up against the Dreadnoughts and their dune buggies and their dirt bikes and all their, banter back and forth. It was really funny, yet like tons of carnage at the same time. Great mix of all that stuff. There's also an element here where like the allegiances shift all the time. So it's like Duke versus Cobra, then the Dreadnoughts come in. Now it's Duke and Cobra versus them. Now it's Cobra and the Dreadnoughts versus Duke. And now all of a sudden the G.I. Joes come in. So like alliances are constantly shifting throughout this entire series, or in this event right here. And that's been really fun to see. And so now we get to see armies growing and shrinking and changing over time. Plus we get the big like G.I. Joe Transformer reveal inside of this issue. We get teased it here. They're going to be playing on that and maturing that through future issues. And we get this big cliffhanger towards the end. I don't want to ruin it for you, but we have some other classic like Dreadnought characters coming in, and maybe they're around the whole time. We just didn't realize it. That was kind of exciting to see too. But man, props to the creative team for making G.I. Joe my favorite Energon book right now. It's the most relatable. It's the book that doesn't take as much like historical knowledge to get into. You can just jump in here, and if you know who Cobra's a bad guy, Duke is a good guy, and there's other characters going on, like it's easier to relate to that than like Transformers or Void Rivals or something like that. So Joe is way more accessible for me, and I'm having a great time with it. Let me know if you're reading it. All right, let's wrap things up with Die Loaded issue number 3. Of course, we have Kieran Gillen and we have Stephanie Hans on the art. I love that the creative team is back for Die Loaded. There was an aesthetic that Stephanie Hans brings to this world that you just can't lose. So I'm so glad they were able to maintain that team this entire time. You have to read Die volume number 1. It's 20 issues long. I've said this many times before, but this is definitely not a book you want to jump into if you haven't read that. Everything about this book plays on those elements. There's so many different characters and relationships that were formed and modified and changed in that first volume. We see the exact repercussions from that inside of here. Very similar situation. We're pulled back into the world of Die. How, by who, we're expanding on that a little bit more. The characters that were pulled in are different now. Now they're starting to relate to their loved ones, their children or their spouses, whatever it might be, when they were missing this entire time. Now they are in Jumanji, essentially, having to deal with all these different things, having to like interact with them. And the ones that were fortunate enough to be like told stories of Die and what happened in there, they're trying to use that knowledge and see what they can do to be more successful than they were, but they're still running into a lot of the pitfalls of just being in this environment in general. There's also a lot of trauma and emotional baggage that these characters are pulling into Die because, again, their loved ones being gone for so long when they were in Die has impacted them, and now they're trying to understand that, get revenge where they need to. It's a very complicated and emotional story to deal with. I'm still excited to see like who the other characters are that are going to be pulled in. We get to see one inside this issue here. We're going to be building that roster out slowly as new issues come out. It's going to be fun to see what that ultimately looks like. I'm really looking forward to one in particular. I think we have a hint to it on the next cover or so. And so I'm really anxious to see what this final team looks like, how they can team up, and like how are they going to get out of here? Like what's going to be the difference between Die Loaded and Die as far as the conclusion goes? I'm nervous and anxious at the same time, guys. There's tons of heartbreak that could happen inside the story, but I'm really excited to see how it evolves. All right, guys, that's what I read. Those are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know down below what you read and what your favorite books of the week were. And again, if you want to help support the channel, I'll have links down below in the description so you can get caught up on previous volumes, so you can join the conversation week after week. But as always, thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be alerted whenever I put out new videos. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the comments.